This is Comicstorian's Complete Story Series. Here we take your favorite comic books and we break them down into digestible bites, allowing for a quick and speedy recap. But if we just did that, it would be boring. So we bring it back to you read dramatically with funny voices and epic music and once in a while sound effects. All alterations to the panel text and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. We're gonna start something new here. Throwback Thursday videos. Basically, since you guys won't stop asking for these older comics, we're just gonna start covering them. So today we're gonna cover the story that put Scott Snyder into the role of the Batman writer in one of his first stories, Black Mirror. Timeline-wise, this takes place before New 52. Bruce Wayne has seemingly died in the final crisis, so Dick Grayson stepped up and took the mantle of Batman. Both are older videos that we have on the channel. When Bruce came back, he allowed Dick Grayson to continue on as Batman, and he went off to start Batman Incorporated. Black Mirror is an epic story that happened during Dick Grayson's time as Batman. Our story begins as Dick stares out his window after having a hard time sleeping the night before. Alfred asks if he's still having trouble sleeping, and Dick tells him it depends on whether they are seeing the same thing. Alfred looks out the window and says that if he means the vultures, then yes, he would imagine that they are. As the two of them look out there, Alfred mentions that Commissioner Gordon called about using the crime lab, and unfortunately, Master Timothy is busy. Dick says that he'll head out to meet with him. Just do him a favor and call someone about those vultures. Later, Dick heads over to the crime lab that Wayne Industries opened up for the GCPD. However, even with the facility being completely open and free to them, the GCPD has yet to use it. So the question is, why use it now? Dick welcomes Jim and he asks, "How can I help you today?" After looking over some data, Jim asks him, "You've heard about the incident at Gotham Prep, right? With the pool attack?" Jim then holds up a vial and says that the 12-year-old boy who attacked the others was named Dana Redford. While the police went looking through his locker, they found a hormonal mutagen which causes rapid ataviristic regression, kind of like reverse evolution. They first encountered this stuff years ago when it was given to, and Dick stops him, Killer Croc. I remember reading about it in the Bloodhaven PD files. Turn him into a genuine monster. Jim then hands the vial over, stating, "This is the original stuff used on Croc. We want to see if it's the same stuff that the kid ingested." As the scan runs, the computer shows it being a match for a type of chemical given to Croc to turn him into the way he is now. Dick then asks, how could a child get his hands on something so dangerous? And Jim stops him, stating, "Police evidence? So now you can see why I came alone with this. People finding out that something was stolen from police evidence could set off a few bells." As the two of them talk, Dick learns that Dana was placed into a medically induced coma, and all that's left at home are his mother Gail and his butler Carson. However, the mother always seemed to be out traveling, leaving Dana home to be raised by their butler. And later that night, as Carson does open up the drapes, he sees Batman, and he tells him, "We should talk." After being let in, Dick tells him that there's no way Dana could have gotten a hold of that mutagen on his own. He must have had some form of help, and Carson says that he already told the police everything that he knows. So Dick then asks him, what about his mother? Has she maybe come in contact with someone who may have had some kind of connection? Carson thinks on it and tells him she's a very private type of person, but lately she's been traveling more. There may be one, but before he can finish his sentence, he's shot in the back with a shotgun. Behind him, Gail stands there shouting, "Bat in my house! Bat!" And as she points the shotgun towards Dick, he turns back, throwing a batarang, stomping her. She screams and shouts until finally, she runs and jumps off of the second-story window. Dick jumps out the window to chase her, but then he sees the fall has killed her. He walks over to the body to examine her, and he notices a Mad Hatter tag sewn into the side of her neck. Afterwards, Dick heads back to see Jim, and he tells him what he found at the Redford home. He goes on to state that the tag was submitted into evidence around the same time that the Croc mutagen was submitted, and at that time, Cullen Buck was the officer who was on duty, and both items were admitted into evidence. Jim tells him that Cullen has moved in with an ex-cop named Becca, and as he turns off the signal, he goes on to state that his guess is that the two of them are selling the department's more valuable evidence on the black market. As the light goes out, Jim looks back and Dick asks him, "Is there something wrong?" And Jim tells him, no. He's just not used to someone still standing there when the light goes out. A little while later, Dick heads over to the apartment that Cullen and Becca are living in to try and find some clues. As he does, he starts to notice the couple having a lot of nice things, especially weapons and equipment. He begins to look at some of the night vision equipment lying around, and in the mirror, he can see Cullen pointing a gun at him. It doesn't take long for Dick to string Cullen up and hand him over the balcony. He tells him that it seems like a lot of evidence is missing under his watch, things belonging to some of Gotham's most notorious residents. However, as Dick begins to question him, Becca appears behind him with a gun, telling him to put his hands above his head. Dick does as he's told, and then he points back, firing a small wire from his fingertip. The prongs shoot into Becca's forehead, shocking and knocking her out. He then turns back to Cullen, who shouts he doesn't understand if he talks, he'll kill him. He's probably watching them right now. Dick asks him, who? And Cullen says he's not sure of his name, but he goes by the name The Dealer. He collects villain stuff, and then he sells it to the highest bidder at the underground auctions called the Mirror House. But as he talks, Cullen starts to cough, and then he begins to spit up blood. And as Dick gets Cullen onto the ground, a vine begins to grow out of his mouth and suffocate him. After following up on a lead, Dick heads out to capture William Rhodes. William was the CFO of Rhodes Metals, the country's largest producer of high-grade titanium alloys. He was everything a model citizen should be, until Oracle connected him with a secret society called the Mirror House. Dick jumps down to William's car and William starts to fire a gun into the roof. Dick shouts for him to stop the car, but as William continues to swerve, he ends up crashing the car. Over at Barbara Gordon's office, she tells Dick to watch as she brings the dead back to life, and after a push of a button, she says that William Rhodes is now alive and well, just used a credit card for good measure. Barbara then asks about Dana, and Dick says that there's nothing new. Just like Williams, Gale made money in imports. He goes on to state that his guess would be that they both had dealings with the dealer moving things for him. When one backed out, they stuck the Mad Hatter tag on them. Barbara then mentions that she looked through Williams' files and found a few dummy companies that had been shut down. There was a list of some of its clients. Dick tells her that what he needs is an invitation to the next auction. So, Barbara continues to check and says that there are some suspicious encrypted files, but they will take a little time to get to. Dick heads back out at the sign of the bat signal, where he sees Jim, and he says, "Commissioner." Lieutenant Harvey Bullock turns back stating, "About 50 pounds off. But I will take that as flattery." He says that Jim is off handling some family business, but he's been combing through the archives and he came up with nothing on the Mirror House. He did, however, talk to some of the old retired guys, and a few of them remember some rumors about some underground auction devoted to the bad guys. Supposedly they moved around a lot and they hold their gatherings at places where nasty things went down, cult-like things. But this goes back 10 to 20 years ago, which would mean that they've been in business for a long time. As the two of them talk, Barbara radios in that she just got his invitation for tomorrow's auctions, even sent by the man himself, Goyborg. Dick says that name is an alias. Etienne Goyborg was a priest in 17th century France who was convicted of secretly performing black masses. Harvey asks who he's talking to, and Dick tells him, "I gotta get going." The next night, Dick makes his way to Gramercy Road, where the invitation said the meetup was going to happen, and Tim radios in asking, "How's the new face tech working out?" Dick tells him that it tickles, and Tim tells him at least there's no problems. After running a SAT scan, there's a blackout effect in the area, meaning that there won't be any communication, but it shouldn't affect the mask. Before Tim can go any further, the radio cuts out and all Dick can hear is static. He gets out of the car and he hands the guard his ticket. After scanning it, the guard tells him to hurry on in. Just make sure to open the box before going into the room. So Dick opens up the box and he sees a gas mask and a bidding number. Once inside, the dealer announces that Mr. Rhodes is just in time. Now they can start. As the door is locked, the dealer tells everyone, "Welcome! We have such a wonderful selection this evening." And as he goes on, he tells everyone that they may be wondering about the gas masks. Well, that is because he's filled the room with a poison gas. It could kill someone in a matter of minutes, but they have nothing to worry about. Their masks have been fitted to filter out that particular gas. The dealer then says that it is time for them to start the night with their first item. One of the guards steps forward holding out a crowbar, and the dealer says that this is the crowbar allegedly used by the Joker to beat the brains in of one of the Robins. If they look closely, they can still see some human tissue still on the edges. Everyone in the room begins to shout, "It's beautiful!" and then they start holding up their bid markers. But while everyone starts bidding, the dealer tells everyone to hold their bidding. They have an even bigger item up for grabs, and then he points to Dick. He tells everyone that it seems their friend Mr. Rhodes is not who he says he is, and if they can tell by him staggering, his mask is not filtering out the gas. Dick begins to pull the mask off, and the dealer tells everyone, "That's right, we are in the company of Batman himself." The special part is there's no bidding on him, so take him and tear him apart. Keep all of the bones for yourself. As the crowd begins to surround him, Dick jumps up and over the people towards the front stage. After getting there, he kicks the dealer down and he grabs the crowbar, and then he launches himself onto the chandelier. The dealer shouts that he can hang there all he wants, but the perch won't last forever. Dick tells him he knows, he's counting on it, and the cables begin to snap and the chandelier falls into the crowd. But Dick jumps off of it using the crowbar to catch himself, and as he climbs up, a guard kicks his face and picks him up. Dick manages to break free, but the crowd of people start to swarm the room, all of them transforming into green-eyed creatures. They begin to claw and bite away at his flesh, and Dick shouts at them to get off. He then breaks from their hold and he runs, jumping out of the window. The next morning, Dick begins to wake up and he sees Barbara sitting by his bed. He asks what happened and she tells him that he needs to take it easy. She goes on to continue telling him that there's something he needs to know, and there's no easy way to say it. But the mirror people got to him before they did. When they found him, they were eating his legs. Dick shouts that this can't be happening, and Barbara says he's still alive though, which is all they could ask for. Barbara then raises a knife telling him, because that means that there's still more for her. Dick stumbles out of bed to get away, and Barbara begins to crawl over to him, stating, "Don't be like that, I've always loved you. All I want is a piece of you, a little piece." The voice of Barbara begins to echo in his mind, and soon Dick begins to wake up standing, stating, "This is also real." Barbara says that the toxin that they used was something that they haven't seen in years, though they're not sure if it's one of Hellfern's or Crane's fear toxins. They did give him a coagulant to stop the threat of a stroke, but it will take some time to get through his system. Dick tells her that he has no time. He remembers the dealer mentioning something about leaving town in the morning, which is right now. They need to stop him right here and now. A short while later at the cargo plane, one of the guards tells them that they may have a problem. The bay door opened and they can't seem to shut it. The dealer gets up and looks back and sees the cargo falling out of the plane, and then sees Batman flying right behind them. Dick jumps out of the ship and rockets himself towards the bay door, firing nets to stop the shooters. As he lands, he tells the dealer that the National Guard is on their way. It's time to turn the plane around. But the dealer tells him that there's no need for that. They feed off the same flesh and blood. Dick grabs a hold of the dealer, and then he begins to change. And the dealer tells him not to worry, this part is real. His body begins to change and transform into a bat, and he starts to scream. He slams Dick into the walls of the cargo ship, and he begins to throw the cargo at him. As Dick rolls out of the way, the dealer grabs him and tells him to look into his eyes. What do you see? And Dick kicks off of him, telling him, a comic criminal, an old greedy man who sells dusty pieces of junk. Dick continues to beat down on him, telling him, you're just a broken down crook who's hopped up on Venom and some outdated version of Doc Langstrom's Man-Bat juice. And after finally stopping, Dick tells him, Gotham is about to own you for a very long time. And the dealer tells him, maybe, someday. But until then, a crate is then thrown, knocking Dick out of the plane, and the two of them stumble out. Before Dick can do anything, the plane then explodes, and all Dick can do is pull the cord on his parachute. Later, back at the penthouse, Dick tries to hang up some of his stuff to try and help with his sleeping issues. Alfred looks around and Dick tells him that it's supposed to be a psychological anchor. All that shrinky-dinky talk. Alfred tells him he just received word that the cargo ship has been recovered, but there were no bodies found. Dick tells him that even with all of that, the Dana boy remains in the ICU. Any other cheery news he wishes to add? Alfred holds out the crowbar from before, stating that Master Timothy found this when they discovered his body earlier. Dick says to just go ahead and toss it in the river, and as he hangs a mirror on the wall, he mentions that he was expecting the same viciousness from the Arkham crowd, but the Mirror House was just normal citizens, mothers and fathers. It seems like the city is getting meaner and wilder. Something is changing, and some nights it's like he can hardly recognize it. Alfred asks if he would like him to wake him up before dinner, and Dick just stares at the mirror, looking at his reflection. Now this is the stories of Dick Grayson as Batman. He has a lot of cool adventures, but they all come together at the end of this series of storylines. So we're starting off with Batman Black Mirror Part 1. We have a few more lined up, but if you guys enjoy this Throwback Thursday kind of a thing, where we just pull some old storylines and vaguely explain where they play into the timeline, let me know in the comments down below. We have a lot of cool ones we'd like to do, such as Red Sun, No Man's Land Batman, and even the death of Bart Allen. Stuff that really doesn't apply anymore, but it's still some cool older stories. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel to keep up to date on all of your current comic books and these older ones, and you can follow us on Twitter at Comicstorian, and I'll see you next time right here.